Okay, everyone, and welcome back. This is Kitten Paw. I just wanted to do a breakdown of the Sisters Warband. They are the blazing stars. The unspent stars no more, because I just spent this morning specking them out. This is one of the Sisters Warband files we made for Mordheim Madness Season 2. So you'll see it's just Sisters, along with 2 Smugglers. Why Smugglers? Well, look, they have a comment. It's the game's way of telling you, I want to be a sister. With the Wolf Priest, they get a cross. Kind of the game's way of saying this is a mercenary DLC. So we decided Mordheim Madness Season 2 that's where those DLCs should be stuck in. Not every faction can get them all. So only sisters can get smugglers. And they're ideal fit since they have 0 ranged, except comet spammers. You can see everyone's in their default blue and red. I guess I didn't sexy them up, but that's kind of irrelevant, isn't it? That said, I'm going to go with more typical sisters with Sister Superior and Purifier. The auger is kind of hot trash, though I will break her down what I'm trying to do with her. And then, of course, the very powerful Maiden, which we could sub her in for these 2 sisters if we wanted. It's kind of 2 different ways to skin the cat, as you'll see when I break them down. But yeah, let's get into the leader, which is the matriarch. She is probably the most powerful leader in the game, I would say. She's right there with the magister. She just can do so many different things. She's exactly what you want in a leader. Now, what do you want in a leader? You want someone that can do damage, pass route tests, can stay on the back lines and be effective. She has some low down titties. God, shouldn't they be up here more? Just awkward. They're like at her belly. I'm sorry, that's just one of this. She's ugly as shit, isn't she? She's just an ugly lady. I got distracted by her low boobs. I'm sorry. So she can wear heavy armor, so she has good survivability. She's a magic caster, so she's just like really flexible, and not literally, because she doesn't look very flexible. But in a battle sense. And she has Divine Fervor, which is an amazing passive skill. After you cast a spell, what spell? Probably going to be a comet. So you pick your poor victim, you engage them in melee, cast a comet on their head, and then you can hit them with a hammer for 1 reduced offense point. So if you go with a single weapon, you can do a comet for 2, hit for 1. Do a comet for 2, hit for 1. Do a comet for 2, hit for 1. So you basically get 6 attacks. These doing more than that since it's modified by intelligence. But usually it's about 40. We'll just say 40 damage. And then you hit them in the head with your hammer for 40 damage. So she can really pump out a lot of damage, which is cool. But otherwise, she's on the back line, kind of helping out her teammates with buffs and comets, staying back there. Really good, again, mental abilities and like martial. Like she gets 20 weapon skill pretty easily. I think she starts with 19, and then I gave her a book of weapon skill. She really doesn't need any book of trainings, to be quite honest. I maxed out her toughness, try to keep her alive, gave her heavy armor. If she gets engaged, she can switch to the shield of iron. The sisters are just so flexible in what they can do. They can do like heavy armor. They can do magic resist. You know, they can do melee resist. They can just like do it all. They're just very adaptable and malleable. So I can just pop on a helmet of constitution, 375, just like that. You know, or I want the magic resistance, so I can, you know, back to that amulet. A spell breaking if I'm not too worried about casting chances. I think she had a pendant of... No, she had an amulet of piety. I wanted to give her some magic resistance while being able to cast. Her skills, she has devotion, as every caster probably will. It's mastered. She has armor proficient mastered. This is not by any means necessary, this skill. You could just as easily pop her in leather with belt buckles and whips and chains. Pop her in leather if you want, so you don't have to waste 6 skill points training this, but you're losing some survivability obviously. But that opens up 6 skill points if you want to do some other things. But Devotion and Knowledge of Mordheim are probably like essential to the build in my opinion, just for that movement. As well as Exhaustion. I just, you know, I'm talking about her as a second liner, so you want her to be able to have, now a leader has 8 red pills, so she can get 11, I'm sorry, blue pills. 11 blue pills with 8 movement. That's 88 movement. You also happen to have this little character right here. He has a pretty nifty starting active skill, which gives 3 bonus movement. So she can motor around the map, potentially 11 movement, 11 pills, 121 movement. So you can get her out of trouble, into trouble, whatever the hell you want. So that's pretty powerful little ability she gets. So why not capitalize on it with Exhaustion? Exhaustion's pretty important with Sisters in general because of 4 Sigmar, I feel. As well as PvP or PvE. Everything I talk about is kind of PvP related, but it easily applies to PvE. So I gave her Improved Prayer. Again, this could be any number of skills, but I just like getting that bypass on an enemy. If you're going to drop comets, you want them to land. If someone's facing you, they probably load up on magic resistance, and we can talk about that in a little bit, how you might want to get around that. But being able to get by 15% is not a terrible thing as well. And I had 2 skill points left over. These are all filled up. I mean, there wasn't much you could do. I think bang for the buck, Web of Steel is kind of worth it. You know, only 80, but that's because she's dual wielding. So if you're engaged in combat, someone locks you down, you switch to the Hammer and Shield. 100 parry, 2 parry with the Web of Steel. Seems worth it for 2 skill points. So that's why she has that. Again, Comet of Sigmar, everybody needs to have this. For her second wind, we'll get into why we have that, but this is one of the most overpowered spells in the game. It's right there with Armor of Righteousness. But this basically lets you do delays and recharge crucial units' red pills in order for them to leverage damage in that round. It's kind of what the theory is. So most people use the Maiden, recharge her red pills, she takes a delay, you know, she enters Daredevil, like this is pretty standard for her. So she'll have Daredevil, be down to 6 red pills, attack 3 times, delay, and then old matriarch here casts this spell, Sigmar's Second Wind, gives her 8 red pills again because she can cast it twice, and she's ready to go again. Once her delay is over, she has 8 red pills. She can attack 4 more times. And she's in Daredevil and Frenzy, and she's just going to kill whatever's in front of her. So we're going to do a play on that, and we're actually going to use that with Sisters here, as you'll see. So that's a really bread and butter spells right here for Sisters. And then Divine Revelation, I like what it offers with melee resistance, but 50% range resistance is nothing to sniff at. When you're engaged with the target, you get 30% range resistance just by being engaged in combat. Pop this on somebody, they're at 80. That's really, really good range resistance. So Sisters don't have a lot of range besides comets, so you can really counter ranged really easily. If I'm going up against Sisters, I just don't typically bring ranged units. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So you can know that your whoever you're fighting will probably sit there ranged on the sideline. If not, you can just punish them for that. You can just really punish them. So yeah, that's the Sister or the Matriarch. You could get Healing Circle, but this is kind of like a defeatist attitude. Like you plan on getting your ass kicked and you want to heal 40 wounds, which is not a lot either. Like the way the damage is today in the game with PvP, I mean healing 40, 80 if you build something with Adrenaline Rush so you can get 3 casts off, or different ways to do that. There's many ways to do that, but to maybe get 120 group healing, I mean people nowadays are going to do 120 a hit, so it's kind of like it's not worth it anymore. Maybe at one point, especially when Sisters were the only warband that could heal, but nowadays it's not that great. Hearts of Griffin is useless. This is useless. I mean, every skill revolving around climbing and jumping and running and all that is useless. And Sinful Speech is actually really useful, but we just didn't want to use it on our Matriarch. We have it on our Purifiers, actually. And here's the Sister Superior. one of the most like underappreciated units in the game. She's actually probably one of the only sexy sisters too. Her and the Maiden. She's looking good. Like they didn't totally butcher her face. She's got a little perkier breast too, a little higher up. Kind of looks a bit more like an actual woman. Not that these things matter, but you know, she's a sexy lady, and she's very strong. She's your second hero unlocked. A lot of you people that play this game realize kind of the second hero is usually pretty hot trash. Like you get the mutant, the young blood, the dreg. They're all kind of in these like awkward, I'm a really bad melee unit with awful leadership, and so I should probably be ranged kind of builds. But the sisters get Sister Superior. He's like kind of a beefy tank. It's really comparable to the Templars for Witch Hunters or the Champion for Mercs. So she's right there with the Templar, I think, because they're both first hero unlocks. And better than the Champion because he comes later. I mean, late game this is irrelevant. You can get them all, obviously. But if you're starting from scratch, she's just a really good second hero. And she just fits in nicely with the Warband because she can tank and hold the front line for all your casters. So I've built her tanky, 65% armor. She's got a shield of iron, heavy armor, helmet of constitution. But again, these sisters, they can do a lot. They have such a good passive skill. Protection of Sigmar. Really, just like Tzeentch warding with Chaos, you can really get a lot of magic resistance quite cheaply with them. You put on an Amulet of Spell Breaking, which is kind of a bread and butter tool. She's at 60. I mean, you can drop in a Shield of Spell Breaking. She's at 80. Like, a lot of people don't want to face that. You don't want to cast into 80% magic resistance. So she can adapt as needed, but for now we just got Helmet of Constitution. You can put on warding weapons, by the way, as well, which is another 10%. So she would have had 90% magic resist if I really want it. And that's important if hopefully the new kind of PvP doesn't allow consumables. They just kind of ruin things, I feel, but that's my opinion. Because you can just pop an or talisman, you get 45 magic resistance. It's like just too much. It's too much. Anyway, that's a side note. I took her with armor proficient, as you can see. I want her to hold the line. Resilient. But she doesn't have the best. The way I had to build this, she doesn't get a lot of toughness, but 21% should be pretty good for most cases. Knowledge of Mordheim. I used to be building my sister superiors. They have really good mental skills. Unlike most of the second heroes, she can get good leadership, and she could get 15 intelligence as well to get mastery knowledge of Mordheim pretty easy. And I had been building her that way, but I'm going to try it with just this 7, especially since her fellow little sister superior again can give her 4 Sigmar. And I believe, does she have exhaustion? I don't think I gave her exhaustion. Yeah, so she might need to. They might need to turn each other and give each other 4 Sigmars, kind of give themselves a little giddy up to get to where they need to be. But you can kind of play with knowing this is my slowest unit and kind of play around that. So she only has 49 movement, which is kind of rough, honestly. It's not what I'm used to, but it's what I had to do to make the build here that I made. Absolute Faith, I just want to make sure she's going to be on the front lines. She can pass some of these All Alone and Fears while still having not necessarily pendants on. So I think that's a really good base to build off of. If I need to, I can always put on like a... You can do some different things with pendants, like a pendant of Courage is overkill for her, but like a pendant of Spell Breaking, so you can still get some magic resist while upping this even more if you know you're going against the undead or something. So I think it's another nice skill that the sisters get. It's the sisters only skill. And it helps with route test. Say if my matriarch dies. 15 leadership plus this skill, you're going to have a pretty good chance of passing a route test. They're definitely a grinded out kind of faction. And again, the magic resistance. We went basically all basic skills here except armor proficient. There's a build here where obviously again you don't need to take armor proficient. You can save 6 red pills or skill points, good God, and do different things like maybe take well, you can't take this with Daredevil, but you can almost take mastery exhaustion. I don't know if I can either with this. I think I had to use... I know I had to use a tome of strength, training the strength. Physical up to 15, and I think I may have even had to use a physical grimoire just to get to this point. She's a lot better in the martial and mental department, I believe. But anyway, kind of digressing again. She starts with 4 Sigmar. What you want to do with something is, I have these ladies going first. They're my fast units with 43 initiative. So you can have them delay, your sister delay, cast 4 Sigmar on a target. No, did I screw that up? I think I've just screwed that up. What I wanted to do was have them delay. She gets 4 Sigmar. Yeah, I think I just screwed that up. Oh well. The idea was you cast 4 Sigmar, and it's still active for the next turn because then they go second. But I think I just screwed that up. Screw the pooch on that one. Might have to give them an alertness chess piece now. Oh well. Anyway, 4 Sigmar, it's a great skill for movement, especially on these sisters who have Repentance, who get 2 more meters movement for picking up a word stone. So you can get this plus 4 Sigmar, they gain 5 movement. So they can just kind of truck around the map. 11 movement's pretty good. Daredevil. I'm going to try her as a Daredevil. I've seen a lot of the Daredevil lately. It's kind of where the game's gone. She should have pretty good dodge bypass. This is going to give her 14%. Plus the hammer itself gives 9. So that's 23. I mean, that's not insanely high, but it should work against heavily armored targets. We can do different things here, like a Sigmar hammer of speed, or you could even go with like a dagger of speed. If it's becoming a problem, that gives you 25 plus the 14. So that's 39. So we're going to try it out. I've never done this build, but we'll see how it works with Daredevil. Insult Mastery to make sure you're landing the hits. She doesn't have the best weapon skills, you can see. And then for this one I took Web of Steel for Mastery. It's for some really good survivability. She's probably going to get focus. 65% armor and Mastery Web of Steel should be pretty good. You just got to watch out for nerve shots. But if you pop that Divine Revelation on her, she'll have 90% range resistance. If she's in combat, it'll be 120%. So she's not going to be an easy target to shoot. And then her sister is just slightly different. I took Staggering Blow Mastery with this one. So the idea is we're slow as shit. Everyone's going to be faster than us. You drop this as many times as need be. She's going to be a second wind target. Like I could just recharge these red pills and just hammer something into the ground. Drop its like initiative by 200, you know, 210. Just hammer it into the ground so they go dead last. So when the next turn starts, then your whole team moves before whatever poor victim got Staggering Blow applied 3 times or more. And you could probably kill it. Their stance will be broken. They'll be just taking hits over the head repetitively. So I want to try this one with Staggering Blow. And I could have also built them with Frenzy, just to get extra damage and a bit more magic resist. I could have just as easily made this Frenzy for them. But I've been playing with Frenzy. I've used it a bit. They probably could use it since their damage is not the best. And that magic resist is always nice, but we'll see how these two perform in PvP. And then we have the Purifiers. These cannot disengage. Always fight to the death. They have last stand. So you don't want them getting locked down. They're going to be on the second line, supporting and casting, along with your matriarch. 1, 2, 3, what I would call ranged units. And then you got 1, 2, 7 melee. So they should be able to cover the 3 ranged units pretty easily. And she could even be considered a melee unit too, right? Christ, even these guys, they can hit things with a hammer too. You gotta love the sisters. None of them care if they've been engaged in combat. So, anyway, you do want to keep them on the second line. With that in thought, or with that in the back of our mind, we've taken Mastery Exhaustion and Knowledge of Mordheim, because we want to be able to run up, cast some spells, and then run back to safety, right? So we get the 8 movement, the 10 blue pills. We can hit and run. In this case, I actually took Piety as well. This is going to give her 40 meters range with her comets, which is the same as a hunting rifle. So the idea here is you add 10 meters to where you can cast, then you don't have to walk forward. You know, you can save some movement that way. So it's a way of making sure they can be extra safe in the back lines. Improved prayer I think is necessary as well for those comets to land as well. And devotion is pretty much necessary as well. I think these are all kind of pretty important. She has this skill where if she charges a unit, you can break their stance. I don't think it breaks Web of Steel or Sidestep though, so it's not the best. And why would you want to charge into combat? I'm sure there's some cute builds you can make. You can actually get her in Daredevil as well. Maybe there's some cute like melee baby Maiden builds you can make with her. Should be fun. Maybe we'll save that for another day. And then I just gave her Stimulus because I'm going to be playing with the turn order here. We're so slow. These are like the slowest people ever, these sisters. So we want to be able to jump turn order and bring people below us. So that's going to be a big part of what they do. And it's a big part of where the game's gone too. If you can't use consumables like Crimson Shade and whatnot, it's going to be important to manipulate the turn order. She gets the Comet, of course. Here's second wind we've talked about. Sinful Speech is going to be very useful for locking down enemy sisters, magisters, you know, warlocks, all kinds of stuff. Warrior priest. If you can prevent them from spell casting for 2 turns, that's pretty damn powerful, obviously. So it's not bad to have in the back here. This is going to be your bread and butter, but if the opportunity arises, let's do it. And then we took basic Divine Revelation so we could stack it with the Mastery. 15 and 75. 75% range resistance is just good times. And yeah, that's her sister. Everything is basically exactly the same, except she took Divine Mastery and Basic Sinful, which is only good for 1 turn. There really wasn't much else worth taking. So it can help. I'm pretty sure they don't stack. That would be kind of weird. I don't know how that would even stack. But it gives you an option for shutting someone up for a turn. And then we have the Backbone. I like Sisters way more than Novices. I don't know. Novices are one of my least favorite units in the game. Sisters make a solid, tanky, frontline, bog down everything unit. I built them with heavy armor because that's what these sisters are doing, which slows them down a bit. Again, you could do leather for everybody. Knowledge of Mordheim to get them, so to replace these 2 combined, get them back to that 6 movement. Resilience pretty standard on a tanky unit that you don't want falling over and all the crits bypassing the armor. And then the magic resistance. I have them built kind of magic resist right now. Amulet spell breaking. They have the Shield of Iron. They can do the Shield of Spell breaking. Again, they can really ramp up the magic resistance. You can be a pain to your own sisters. Really kind of counter your own Warband in a lot of ways. So it just gives that flexibility. A lot of builds I used to do. Well, I can't see it, but the other one that increases leadership test by 15%. But if you just drop a Pendant of Courage in here, so you know you're going against the undead, you're fine. You're just fine. So, you know, you want to be able to have this flexibility in your build. So, and again, if I don't need to worry about magic, you just drop this Helmet of Constitution and beef them up even more. So it's whatever you're playing against. You change your equipment out as needed. And then, you know, I've been trying to find the ideal spot for these sisters. You could build them as dual wield. I almost did, but I decided I was going to rely more on these comet spamming to kind of kill things in the Daredevil units. So I want them to lock things down and tie them up. I don't want them to do damage, but you could use them as a dual wield to get some damage out. So I went with Exhaustion just for more movement to get, you know, if they get this passive plus the 4 Sigmar, you have 11 movement, so you may as well use 1 more Exhaustion to get 11 more movement. You know, that's 7 times 11, that's 77 movement. 77 movement Henchman is kind of nuts. So they can really get onto targets when you need them to. Staggering blow to play with the turn order. Again, we're slow as shit, so we want to kind of take advantage of that. Stimulus to do the flip side, so you stagger somebody and stimulus somebody. Obviously you'd use stimulus first. That's a 20 point swing, which can be pretty good. And web of steel to tank it up a bit. Again, if you want a more offensive build, drop these 3 skills and go more, you know, very common ones: adrenaline rush, dual wield. You can charge, hammer things. You can use a skill with that, like a strong blow. But I decided I didn't want to do that. And that's pretty much everybody's built exactly the same way. Except I had to take a novice. So let's look at the crap novice. Why do I hate the novice? She has 10 weapon skill, guys. 10. Like, she makes a flagellant look accurate. So you have to give her a weapon skill chest piece. You have to give her a training, book of training weapon skill to try to get her to even hit anything. Because if she hits something, she increases dodge, which you want to be doing. So she can get 10% dodge by hitting twice. I gave her a void to get more dodge. I gave her prayer of swiftness for 15. So if she hits things twice and pops this, she gets 25% more dodge, which is 120, which is really pretty good. So she could be viable maybe in the new meta with all these like Daredevil builds. You could maybe run a team. You know, if I want, I could train these 3 up. Similar, Daredevil. They also make really good kind of melee resist henchmen, because they have the stats in the right spot for agility, and then try to buff up their weapon skill. So you can see she's at 59. We can just say 60%. Because I gave her Shield of Shielding, you can give her defensive stance. She's at 70% melee resist. You can give her Divine Revelation, if you guys remember this spell. That's going to give 10% more melee resist. So you can actually kind of get a really tanky build out of these if you want. That's their one redeeming thing. They better off in leather. They can wear the heavy armor, but you're reducing your dodging. So why do that? She can wear a cloth if I want her to have even more dodge. I gave her an evasion amulet for that dodge, so you can really ramp up the dodge as needed. You know, drop this. 105. So you can really ramp up the dodge if you want. Say you really know there's a lot of Daredevil builds. Or you could really ramp up the melee resistance. So, I mean, I could see a niche for these ladies. I prefer the more reliable, more well-rounded sisters, I think. But there is a place for them. That's the exciting henchman. Here's the Smuggler. I like to build them with a lot of HP, because I'm going to be drawing from their HP pool using their skills. Exhaustion and Adrenaline Rush. That's 900 a turn if you pop them both. So you're going to want to pool for them. So why would you do that? So she's gunpowder. You can fire 4 times. Some heavy damage gunfire shots. So the other thing I want to do is leverage their HP pool and leverage their killing power with jumping the turn order. So if I see a target out in the street or misplaced where I want them, I don't want her too fast, because I want to be able to jump them in the turn order. So you might not shoot all your bullets off, but you will start tapping into Liquid Courage, which will give you 10 initiative. Take a ready stance, which will give you 10 more. Old little sister might come along and drop her a stimulus for 10 more. You can start to see where this is going, right? So that's 87. I'm going to switch my weapon over to a Dagger of Expertise, get 10 more. It's 40 initiative. I can jump up to 97 initiative just like that. Go pick up stone. I took this skill. It's kind of cute. It gives you 1 meter movement, so you can get up to 9 movement. And she gets 5 initiative. So it kind of fits what we're trying to do here. So if there happens to be a stone around, and it's 2 turns. I like that it's 2 turns. If it was just 1 turn, it's probably not worth getting. But I just had 2 skill points sitting there, so you can see you can really jump the turn order. And then when it's your turn again, that's when you drop the 4 shots in a row down. You're not going to worry about jumping again, the turn order. You'll just do the damage and run away. So that's how I've built her. to leverage the turn order, jump the turn order, and shoot the shit out of something. I have no cute, fancy, oh, I really want to crit you builds that a lot of people do. Like fine-tuning and all these. I just want to shoot things. I just want to shoot you over and over. That's how I look at Poison Wind Globadiers, just all my archers. I just want to shoot you. I'm not going to get cute and make crit builds. So that's how she's built. She's the exact same way. I guess she doesn't have a Helmet of Constitution. She had a lot less hit points. There we go. Over 400. Oh, I think I missed that. So yeah, she has quick reload and mastery hardy. That's why I'm getting way up here. Mastery hardy on my ranged unit. That's correct. A little outside the box, but I found it's just, they're very effective. Like, if you're building ranged or playing them correctly, they should not be getting hit. So the way I look at it is it's a pool of HP just sitting there to leverage for doing more damage. That's how I see ranged units. They have this 400 HP to turn into killing your enemy. So that's how I've built her. Then we have the most broken unit in the game, the Maiden. What a beast. She can do Daredevil and then get second wind. You know, 8 red pills, 8 red pills, 8 red pills. So what is that? 24 red pills. That's 12 more attacks on one turn while in Daredevil. I mean, that's just insane, guys. It's just so broken. It really is. And the way to counter that is taunt, but like no one takes taunt, or whatever it is. Yeah, taunt. So this way, delaying cost 4 SP, so you'd break second wind pretty quickly. But who the hell takes masterwork taunt? I mean, basic might have a role, you know, for just 2 skill points, but it's not as strong. You know, you adapt. You just kill the one unit that has taunt, right? I mean, so it's pretty broken. It's hard to counter it. So armor proficiency necessary. You want to get onto your target, so knowledge of Mordheim again. 8 times 8. You know, you get good movement plus with the exhaustion. So she get 11, 88 movement, right? And you want exhaustion because you're going to be using blue pills getting to your target and then delaying. So you want a pool of delay pills to use. Protection to Sigmar, so she has ranged immunity, so let's give her magic immunity, and let's give her 50% armor. So you're going to have to hit this unit to kill it with your melee weapons, and she's going to be hitting you back a lot. So you prioritize the melee units, like the enemy's Daredevil units, and kill them immediately, and this lady will never die. She's got 608 HP. She's just not going to die. Resilient, 32 is great. Crit would go right through this. The other thing is she's weak to stun. Obviously, you could stun her. But you could put on a Helmet of True Grit. You're at 80 just like that. It's pretty damn strong, obviously. You've lost some of the magic, some of it, but you still have really good magic resist. So you adapt based off of who you're facing. And then what's really cool again with the sisters is they get this dodge bypass with Sigmarite hammers. So that's 18 dodge bypass. Plus 14 is 28. 36, 46 is that already? 46 dodge bypass, which is probably enough in most situations. Again, if you think someone's going to really go out of control, you can take some daggers of speed. So you can really get a lot of dodge bypass, or just don't use Daredevil and hit the shit out of it anyway and it will die. Because if it's in dodge, it probably has cloth armor and etc. You can just bash it to death without Daredevil. I just realized I didn't train any of her magic, but she doesn't really need it, does she? If I would, she might be the only one I'd take Healing Circle on. It doesn't heal herself, but she can kind of be a rock in the middle of the field and then just heal her allies. But honestly, you don't really want any of this. Maybe Sinful Speech if the enemy mage is pestering you, but you have this magic resistance. I gave her Frenzy, combined with Daredevil. That's 155% more damage, and it gives magic resist just to top that off a little more. And I had 2 skill points left over, so I just took Ignore Pain. I kind of want to use this a bit. It's going to give her that 60% armor and 20 wounds. It's not a big deal when you have 575 of them. So you can pop that a few times. And she's going to be in Frenzy, so she can't take a stance or anything. So I just had 2 skill points. It didn't seem like much else worth taking. I mean, you could do some like status effect stuff. I could have done like Insult, but that takes 3 blue pills, and we're already trying to delay a bunch so we can get second wind. So she already has really good weapon skill. And if you're worried about weapon skill, you can put on armor. She can go above 20 because she's an impressive. And yeah, they have Mastery Insult. I don't think I mentioned that. So they can help out. But I probably wouldn't take... she would probably replace these 2 anyway. But if need be, I don't know. You can get rid of the Purifiers. Or get rid of one sister. Take a sister, a Purifier, and the Maiden. You know, there's some things you can do there. So that's her. She's immune to magic, immune to ranged, and you're going to have to get through 60% armor. And like 575 hit points. So she's kind of broke as shit. And then here is the auger. The much maligned auger. She's a terrible leader. Why would you ever replace the matriarch, who I just said is probably the best leader in the game, with an auger? You wouldn't. She has terrible weapon skill, just like her friend, the novice. So she's not going to be hitting anything. Really, she's just meant to kind of tank. So I've tried to build her as a tank. How did I do that? Well, I took Shield Specialist Mastery to give her melee resist. You take a Shield of Shielding for 27 more. So that's 37 melee resist by just having a Shield of Shielding and Shield Specialist. Then we're going to take Defensive Stance, obviously. That gives 20 more. So she's at 94% when she triggers that. I gave her a Sign of Sigmar. This probably isn't going to work, but I just kind of wanted to try it just because I've never really made an auger. But this is going to give 10 more melee. So you can get 30. That's 104% melee resist. But she only gets 7 pills, right? Whoops. And these cost 8. Well, that's why I had to give her Exhaustion Mastery. So I had to train up her toughness to 12 and put it into there. Try to give her a pool to pull from and a bit better critical resistance as well. Because if you're stunned and critted, you're not going to have any melee resistance. So she actually is very prone to stun. So if someone headshots her, the whole thing's over with. So you need to have good range resistance. You want to make sure she gets engaged into combat, gets that 30 from being engaged, so that's 77. Give her Divine Revelation, that's 127. Take a Careful Approach, that's 147. So she basically can become ranged immune, just like her friend the Maiden. Hopefully becomes pretty melee immune, because you can also give her Divine Revelation again for another 10%. So if you get this, and Divine Revelation, you're getting 40% more melee resist for 114 melee resist, which is pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Most enemies are going to have a hard time. They might get to the 20 to 30% hit chance, but you know, if some of them land, fine. You'll be making them use a lot to try to get through it. And the nice thing, she has innate dodge now, which is going to help with the daredevils as well. No one's going to want to daredevil this unit. So she's kind of maybe finding a role in the new meta. I don't know. I had to take Knowledge of Mordheim just to get her to places. You want her to lock down the units so she can get 70 movement. You want her to get her onto things. Unfortunately, if you use too much, you can't enter any of these stances, so she might just get clubbed over the head pretty quick. So you got to kind of keep her on the back line. What I would have her doing is hanging out with these 3 until she sees a window or something tries to kill these 3, and then she latches onto it. You'll probably send your damage dealers onto these, right? So she could try to intercept them while still having some of her blue pills left to enter some of these stances. And again, she can get pretty good magic. If you just put this Amulet of Spell Breaking, you can switch this over to a Shield of Spell Breaking if it loads. You make this a Mace of Warding. So 74 is not bad at all. I mean, it could have been higher, but again, you're trying to cover ranged, you're trying to cover melee, you're trying to cover magic. So she covers it all pretty well, and she'd be annoying to kill, I think. But again, the meta's kind of not going that way. Okay, we may have just crashed here. Well, it's having a wide double hammer instead of two-handed flail. No, double hammer's low damage. Okay, we came back. Good. Why double hammer? Because you have... sorry, I hadn't looked earlier. Let's just pick her. You have damage decay. And we're using second wind. Right? I don't know why. These inventories are so big. They take forever to load. Okay, I gave her a great flail. She does a bit more damage, right? But each attack you do 15% less melee damage. Eventually it becomes 0. You're doing 0 damage because it's stackable. So if you're using second wind, you're rapidly going to do 0 damage. So you have to dual wield. You have to. These inventories are just so huge that it's kind of freezing the game a bit. Sorry, guys. Oh, okay. Lockley pointed that out. Or Lolte. I don't know how you would say that. I'll try to put weapons on. It's really struggling. It's when I switch around, obviously, into these like super duper inventories. Yeah, so that's the auger. I'm not going to switch her equipment back or it might bog down. So that's them in a nutshell. Hopefully you'll see them in some PvPs now on my channel, just friendlies. They're not in the tournament, obviously. But I kind of wanted to break them down with how I'm playing them right now. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but this is how I've broken down my sister's Warband. Just spend all the pills, or skills and stats on them. It'll be fun to give them a run out there on the streets. Especially these girls. I'm kind of excited about these Daredevil builds. And getting back to, like, why are they one-handed? In this case, it's because they'll stack the red pill penalty. The Maiden doesn't because she's an impressive, so they don't get tiring effects or immune to them, but the sisters would. So if you're using second wind, it's going to be 2 attacks. 2 pills for attack. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to fall apart if you're using second wind. So if I'm going into the Daredevil with this unit and upping the damage, then you want to give them second winds so they can each tackle just be 2 red pills. So they can do then 4 more Daredevil one-handed attacks, then 4 more Daredevil one-handed attacks over and over. Which I'm curious to see how it will do. I've never made this build. It's similar to what people do with the Skaven. They do a lot of one-handed warp guards with Lad's Got Talent and Black Skaven into Daredevil with a one-hander, and they usually pop out about 70 to 120 a hit depending on the armor of the target. But Black Hunger gives even more damage. That's why I'm curious if I maybe would need Frenzy. That kind of acts like a Black Hunger. But these are going to have more survivability than the Skaven with his 65% armor and a lot of the magic resist. If she gets Daredeviled herself, she's going to just get ripped apart. She has no dodge. So that could be a problem. But ideally you've put maybe your auger on one of the targets or the novice that has Daredevil. Or these sisters. You're really just going to slow them down. You're not going to stop an enemy Daredevil. Ideally you're combating the shit out of the enemy Daredevil as well. You can kind of take them down that way. So yeah, if you take the Maiden as well, yeah, she's going to be a she'll be susceptible to Daredevil as well. So anyway, that's them. I've gone on long enough probably. I'm going to link this to YouTube so you guys will have it for posterity's sake, and hopefully I can break down my Chaos Band next so you guys can kind of see a very different approach. So thanks for watching, and I will be back with Chaos in a little bit.